Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. Suravangsha Jayate. Om Hari Om. Namaste, everyone. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, at least what here in the Vedic heartland of Omaha, Nebraska is afternoon, and what I'm sure are different times for all of you watching right now, because as I always say, we have truly an international audience. The International Sanatana Dharma Society, by the grace of Sriman Narayana, has grown exponentially in the last several years to the point where we have a presence throughout the world, the likes of which we desired years ago, but that was not 100% the case until now. So we have people watching either live or who will watch the video afterwards in multiple dozens of nations throughout the world. So to all of you, welcome. And what we're doing today is something very special, actually. Every time a new book is released, I think we pretty much do this, and that is that we have a book release celebration. Well, that is what we're doing today, and what we are celebrating very specifically is our newest book, which is called Interregnum. Interregnum, Restoring Authentic Rulership in the Kali Yuga. And quite a title, and that is precisely what the book is about. What we're going to be doing today is indeed celebrating the release of this book, which came out maybe a week and a half ago, something like that. And I'm going to first talk just a little bit about the importance of this book, but then I'm going to be doing some readings from the book itself. And then if we have time, then afterwards we'll have questions and answers. So first of all, talking about this book a little bit. First of all, this book is based upon a talk that I actually gave as a live stream, roughly a year and a half ago, something like that. And it had a somewhat different title, but the talk itself also was called Interregnum. It also just had a different subtitle. So if you want to look up the talk, please feel free to just do a search on the Dharma Nation channel on YouTube specifically, and you will find that talk that I gave. Well, one of my students very nicely transcribed that talk in such a way that I could then make it into a book, and a more long form sort of book. And what the book is about is this. First of all, the book is designed to be kind of a partner with two other books that I've written. The first of which is the Dharma Manifesto, and the second of which is Principles of Perfect Leadership. So this book, you could say, is almost part of a trilogy that goes along with those other two books. And it discusses several of the same topics as those other books do, but it's also unique in and of itself, in that it is a commentary on 3 verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam that speak respectively of, first, what is considered to be bad rulership, corrupt rulership, etc. And that's what we begin talking about in this book, because as I always say, first you have to know realistically where we are at the present time before you can then go on to, in a very positive way, then lay out this positive, very optimistic vision of where we should be. So that's what I did in the talk. That's also what I do here. So in a way, you could say that this is a commentary on several verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam that are prophetic in nature. You know, a lot of people talk about prophecy in various contexts. People like the idea of, being able to peer into the future, to the point of, in some cases, it's understandable. In some cases, it is understandable that we would like to know what is coming, but also sometimes to the point of silliness, where we know, there are New Age people who supposedly channel beings, and they give these predictions about the future, very few of which come true, etc. But in any case, people like the idea of peering into the future. Well, in Sanatana Dharma, very specifically, and many people may not be aware of this, so I'll explain this now. We have a few books and a few sections of several of our scriptures where nothing New Age involved, no peering, but rather we have rishis who do indeed give us very clear picture about what the future will be like, what their future, these rishis having lived thousands of years ago, their future is our present. So we find this in an entire Purana called Bhavishya Purana, that is the Purana of things to be. The literal translation, in fact, of Bhavishya Purana is the history of things to come. Amazing title. This is the power of our scriptures. But then also in other scriptures, again, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many verses that talk about what our conditions will be like quite literally right now in 2023. Some, a little bit before our time, and prophecies going all the way into hundreds of thousands of years from now, quite literally. So indeed, these verses that we look at in this wonderful little book, Interregnum, is me commenting on several of these verses that are prophetic in nature and that are talking about quite literally right now, 2023. And the fact that this book has come out right now, that was my choice and my decision. Interregnum. This is a Latin-based word, but it's a standard English term now. And the reason why I chose this as the title both of my talk, but now as the book, is because of the power of this term. And interregnum means quite literally a period in time in which society or a nation or an empire, whatever it is rulerless. Where there is no legitimate ruler. There is no authentic ruler for that period of time. So it can be the case historically that you can look at a specific nation, again, an empire, whatever it is, and you'll have a succession of legitimate rulers, but then there's a gap. And then, of course, hopefully in the future, there will be legitimate rulers again. Well, there's a reason why I chose to release Interregnum right now in 2023. And I'm not going to go deeper into what those reasons are because the reasons are in the book. So indeed, get the book. Get this book. It is inexpensive. It's available both in print form as well as Kindle. I hope somebody has put the URL, the link to the book in the chat. Don't even wait. Purchase the book right now. If you want to wait till after the live stream, just don't forget. Purchase this book because, again, it is the Srimad Bhagavatam, a 5,000-year-old text telling us what we are experiencing and what is the meaning of it in 2023. So with that, I have too many people to thank for this book, so I'm not even going to attempt. There is an acknowledgments page where I thank many, many individuals for helping with this book, with proofreading, with the actual publishing, with the book cover. The book cover itself, as you can see, is beautiful, and everyone has told me that they have barely even seen such a beautiful cover. And it was Vishnu Patni, very specifically, one of my students who created this book cover. And at the very least, I'm going to thank her. Again, too many individuals to thank. I do thank them within the book itself. But I personally am very happy that this work has come out. And as I've promised people, there's going to be a cascade of books coming out from now on. Radical Universalism, The second edition, which will be a much more expanded edition, will be out, hopefully within a few weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I'm not going to give an exact date. Soon thereafter, Be Strong, which is going to be another book, is going to come out. And I've actually said that this is going to be a Vedic guide, actually, on true self-improvement. It's going to be really the first, let's say, self-help book that the ISDS has ever put out, except, of course, again, it's not like the commercialized New Age self-books that are out there now. Be Strong is a book that is designed to help the readers quite literally become strong in every sense of that term, to become strong in their lives. After that book comes out, just to give people a short preview of the future, after that book comes out, the next one will be Lord of the Rings, Dharma and Modernity. That will be a sizable book. That will be maybe 300 pages. And indeed, people are working on the cover right now. The cover also to that is going to be astounding. After that will be one of my magnum opuses. Really, Sanatana Dharma, the Eternal Natural Way, is my major magnum opus. But the book to come out after the Lord of the Rings book will be the Vedic Encyclopedia. I am writing an encyclopedia. It's a Vedic encyclopedia. I began work on it years ago. And that will be about a minimum of 700 pages. It will come out initially as a hardcover book, and it will be the greatest encyclopedia done on Vedic spirituality, giving article-length definitions of hundreds of important Sanskrit words that we need to know, some of which are very obscure, and even modern-day scholars probably don't know. And on and on and on. So indeed, there's going to be a cascade of books, and we'll have book celebrations for all of those once they come out. But now we're celebrating Interregnum, restoring authentic rulership in the Kali Yuga. Let me just say one very quick thing before I jump into the readings, and this is something that I have just been inspired to say right now. You'll see on the cover there is a tiger. You'll see on the cover there is a tiger. Except this tiger is wearing Vaishnava tilak. If you can't see very closely, that's all right. Go to Amazon, to the book page, and you'll see. And I'm going to make this very succinct. There is a saying that many traditionalists very specifically know, and that is, ride the tiger. Ride the tiger, ride the tiger. And I have declared, and I am declaring now, that the era of riding the tiger helplessly is now over. Now we have subdued the tiger, and the tiger is wearing tilak. So with that, let's go on to the readings. I'll be reading just nice little examples that are from the book itself, from Interregnum. And the first thing that I'm going to read is from the introduction itself. And some of these are a little bit lengthy. Again, I picked these on purpose because they're kind of representative of what the book is about. And we will begin. This is from the introduction. The reason why I have chosen the term Interregnum as the title for the present book is because this word accurately denotes precisely where both America and most of the world's most powerful nations find themselves at this exact historical juncture of the year 2023 of the Common Calendar. We are currently living in a period of interregnum, a period in which we do not have a true ruler. For the last several generations of our present era, known in the ancient Sanskrit language as the Kali Yuga, and extending down to this exact time in 2023, our world has been severely missing authentic, virtuous, and legitimate leadership on the part of the vast majority of our national heads of state, as well as more local political officials. Indeed, the sheer vacuum of leadership presently exists as highly placed as the roles of national presidencies, prime ministerships, premiers, down to governors, representatives, mayors, city councils, and even local boards of education. The purpose of this work, Interregnum, Restoring Authentic Rulership in the Kali Yuga, is to examine those perfect principles of political rulership that are revealed within the ancient teachings of Sanatana Dharma, otherwise known as the Vedic tradition. In this book, I will be explaining the nature of both false political leadership as well as true leadership, specifically within the context of our present age of conflict and moral degeneracy, known as the Kali Yuga. In the process of doing this, I will be primarily commenting upon several verses from the preeminent Vedic scripture known as the Srimad Bhagavatam that explain what good and bad rulers look like. And this is from pages 3 to 5 of Interregnum. So again, this is from the actual introduction to the book. Now we'll go on to read a few more things. The next reading is from page 10 of Interregnum. Contemporary modernity has been mostly devoid of true and effective leadership. Legitimately good leaders are virtuous individuals who have been empowered directly by God in order to bring about a state of good governance to their respective nations. In addition to having a divine mandate, good leaders also possess the mandate of the people. An overwhelming majority of the people know and trust in the benevolence and wisdom of a true leader. Thus, good leaders are strongly endorsed from above as well as from below. So again, that is from page 10 of Interregnum. As I'm speaking, you may hear some thunder in the background. That's because a storm is rising. Next, we're going to go to pages 31 to 34 of Interregnum. It is precisely to help the innocent sector of the population to avoid imitating such negative examples of leadership that the Bhagavad Gita, as well as many other Vedic scriptures, make it quite clear that a true leader is someone who has a very great responsibility toward those who they lead. And now the following is a quote from the Bhagavad Gita that I have in the book. Whatsoever action is performed by a great man, common men follow in his footsteps, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And this is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 21. And now the reading continues. Leaders need to always be aware that whatever they do, think, and say, others will then follow their example. Who they are in their intrinsic character, in their moral integrity, whether they have or do not have such integrity. Others will either consciously or unconsciously imitate. What those who lead are as persons is what the common individual, being innocent, wanting the good for themselves, for their families, and for society, will then follow. The modeling example of such politicians and leaders will be followed by the common citizen. Not just when it comes to quote-unquote politics per se, but in multiple aspects of their lives. And again, this was from pages 31 to 34 of Interregnum. And now we will continue. The next passage is from pages 47 and 48. And this is now talking about cities, proper cities, because one thing that I do in the book, I actually do a lot in this book. One of which is I talk about the polis, that is the Greek term for a city, traditional city. I compare and contrast true cities, real cities, healthy cities, functional cities, that is the cities of the past, of the ancient world, where the populations were no more than 50,000 people, I compare those to the cities of today, almost every single one of which is a living hell. So here I'm talking about ancient cities. The ancient cities were places of refined and advanced culture, usually ruled by a righteous king who very concertedly attempted to rule his municipality in accordance with the natural laws of Dharma. The center of the city was almost always the temple or the house of worship. Cities were purposefully small, often with less than 50,000 inhabitants, and comprised of peaceful neighborhoods in which people personally knew most of the individuals and families who formed their local community. And this was pages 47 and 48. Now in the next passage, I go on to speak about cities a little bit more because, again, in the book, it's a major section where I talk about what is a properly functioning city. So this next passage is from pages 48 and 49. One of the most important elements of ancient cities that I briefly mentioned in the last paragraph was that at the very center of every city in the ancient past would be situated a sacred temple complex. The very heart of the city, spiritually, symbolically, and geographically, was considered to be the temple, not the royal palace, interestingly. The king was often considered to be the head priest of the primary deity of the temple, and the deity of the temple was himself or herself understood to be the actual ruler of the city, above even the king. The king merely ruled on behalf of the city's chief deva, or god. Thus, the city was viewed as a divine city. It was a reflection of the kingdom of heaven upon the earth. We have witnessed this sacred form of urban planning arrangement universally with all of the ancients, including overtly in Vedic cities, as well as with the ancient Greeks and ancient Roman city-states. So again, this was from pages 48 and 49. Now we go on. The next reading is going to be from page 78 of Interregnum. And it proceeds thusly. A strong sense of determination is one of the most important qualities that a leader of his people needs to have. Determination, determination, determination. That part is not in the book. I just wanted to emphasize this. If you're a leader, you have to have determination like steel if you are to be a leader. Now let me proceed. A leader needs to be extremely determined in all of his desired goals, both short-term and long-term, that are necessary for the ultimate well-being of his people and nation. A true ruler has to be an individual whose will is akin to steel, and whose ability to focus is like that of a laser beam. The true ruler of his people must allow himself to be swayed by absolutely nothing in his purposeful resolve to carry through with his righteous goals. His well-deliberated plans to achieve those goals, and in his long-term objectives to benefit his people. Indeed, his will must be like titanium in its strength. So this is from page 78 of Interregnum. And we will go on. The next short passage that I'm going to read to you is now from page 85. So as you can see, I'm giving you little snippets, just little passages from all throughout the book. The rest of the book is precisely like what you're hearing, except in much more depth and many more topics that are covered. But this is just a little taste. I'm giving you 0.5% of what's in the book. So again, the next passage is from page 85. A true ruler must be infinitely more than a mere politician, a good manager, or even a leader in the normative sense of the term. Rather, a perfect leader of a nation must be a Platonic philosopher king, precisely as Plato describes in his famous work, The Republic. A true king must incorporate in his personality the very best essence of both the spiritual sage and the martial ruler. A philosopher king is a ruler who certainly possesses all of the necessary characteristics to be a good administrator of state. But more than this, he is also firmly grounded in a personally meaningful life of spirituality. He has to be an individual who, though he is serving in the capacity of a monarch, he has also studied the Vedas and engaged in meditation with just as much dedication as any Brahmana. That was from page 85. And we will go on now. We only have a few more of these passages that we're going to do. The next passage is from page 91 of Interregnum. A legitimate and able ruler of his people will lead via the strength of his own personal example. Being an individual who is righteous, who is virtuous, the people will undoubtedly see the king himself as a form of monarchical guru. The citizens of the nation are in turn akin to the faithful disciples of the Guru King, Rajarshi. Therefore, following his good example as a Guru King, the people themselves will be righteous, will be good, and will be at peace within their own selves, as well as within their respective families. Subsequently, society in general, and thus the nation itself, will be a realm in which every citizen will enjoy peace, joy, health, and prosperity. And that was from page 91 of Interregnum. Finally, we have one more passage that we're going to read, and this is from pages 106 to 107 of Interregnum. With our present situation having now been outlined, it is imperative that we all sincerely take shelter of God and pray to him at this dark moment, that he may bestow upon us the empowered leaders that our people so urgently need. Let us pray to God that he will deliver unto us such incomparable and honest rulers. But even more than pray for such an outcome, let us not merely wait in a debilitated state of helplessness for such leaders to arise, which they most definitely will. The very leader you seek is perhaps looking back at you in the mirror. So indeed, this work is also a call to action. We are living in a state of being bereft of true and legitimate and honest leadership right now in 2023. We pray for true rulers to arise. Quite literally. People use this word prayer very often in a very general sort of sense. I mean this quite literally. We are to pray right now to God, that God deliver unto us empowered leaders, individuals who have been brought upon the earth at this exact juncture in history in order to lead humanity into a golden age. We are to pray to God. God, please allow these people now to reveal themselves. In this era of darkness, let their light shine with such brilliance that their self-effulgence will attract the world to them, such that they can lead us now. We are to pray in this way, but also we are not to merely rely on waiting and waiting and doing nothing. No, on the contrary, we must never do nothing. In the meantime, within the scope of this vacuum, in whatever way we can, if we are good, if we are honest, if we are sattvic, if we have humility, if we have a calling also to lead what? Our family, our neighborhood, our community. Some small effort, some medium-sized effort, or some massive effort. But understanding that we're doing this with humility. If we are called ourselves to be leaders, be a leader. Don't wait. Don't just sit there and wait, watching television every day, waiting for the leader to suddenly appear on television. Trust me, television will be the last place he'll appear. First, he'll appear amongst the people. But in the meantime, don't wait. You also do whatever you need to do to help to bring about a golden age in our lifetime. You yourself look in that mirror and with honesty, ask yourself, am I humble? Am I sincere? Do I have the requisite skill set necessary to be a leader? Again, even in a small way. Leader doesn't mean necessarily a global leader. No. Again, can I lead 10 people? Can I do something in order to restore Dharma to this world and everything that word entails? Dharma. Am I an individual who I can do something in the meantime between now and when these truly empowered leaders arise? Can I do something now in the meantime? If I can, let me do it. Let me do it immediately. And when those truly empowered leaders sent to us by God do appear on the scene, at that point, in humility, whatever we have done, we run to that person's banner and we lay all of our successes at that person's feet. And we say, now I am here to serve you. Now you lead me. You be the leader of the leaders. And without hesitation. This is why I wrote Interregnum. This is why I felt that this was a book that had to be released quite literally right now. This is the book of this moment. So if you have not yet had a chance to get this book, get this book. Because like all of my other books, you will not find information like this anywhere. Get this book, read it, and put this book into action immediately. So with that, I thank you all very much for listening to my little discourse, my little reading on this. And indeed, this is a book release celebration. I can tell you, all the leaders, all the followers, all the disciples, all the members, all the well-wishers of the International Sanatana Dharma Society, we're all extremely happy that this book came out. And we're happy about all the books that will be coming out into the future as well. And with that, we have a little bit of time, a nice amount of time actually. So what I would like to do is see for the remainder of the time if there are any questions, either about the book itself, about what we've been talking about, or truthfully, we'll have this be somewhat open. So if people have any legitimate questions about Sanatana Dharma, please feel free to ask. Let me just say beforehand, if you're going to ask very specific and overt political questions, I'm not going to answer those. This is a work of political science. It's not a book of partisan politics. Oh, vote for this politician, that politician. Indeed, in the book itself, I don't do anything like that. Support this party, that party. That's not what this is about. Rather, this is true Vedic political science. In the same way that you would find a political science department in any university or college in the world, that's what this book is. It's political science, not politics in a partisan sense. So don't ask partisan questions because you're not going to get an answer from me. But again, please feel free to ask your questions. And it would be my pleasure to answer your questions. I have to read this one comment from Nick from Solace, and he says, "A storm is coming, our storm, and when it arrives, it will shake the universe." From a very good book and movie, Dune. I recognize that. Thank you for that, Nick. And evam bhavatu. May it be so. Very good. And with that, I do see some questions that are here. Very good. Let me just say, Varsaga, you ask a very good question, but I answered this in depth last time. And let me just read your question. It's Namaste Acharyaji. How does one prevent losing their mind due to... oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay, this is a different question. I misread it. I thought you said rage, but you're saying age. All right, very, very different. All right, so let me indeed read and then answer this question. How does one prevent losing their mind due to age or other material defilement? Very good. That is actually a very good question. And let me just say, first of all, indeed, as I always have to say, I am a doctor, but I have a PhD. I'm not an MD. So I cannot give medical advice in any way, shape, or form. But let me just give you a few thoughts on this, actually. Indeed, as one gets older, it is indeed the case that many people, and today specifically, again, we won't go very deeply into it, but we know that today, especially with all the contaminants and pollutions and other things that we cannot mention that are occurring in our world, yes, increasingly people go through loss of memory, dementia, Alzheimer's, etc., as they get older. They become mentally debilitated. They, in a way, start to lose their faculties, and it's a horrible thing to see. You know, it's a truly terrible thing to see when you encounter people who reach a certain age and indeed they start to kind of lose their mind. One thing that I would say is the best way to prevent this from happening is to make sure that you live as healthy a lifestyle as possible before you become elderly. See, this is the problem with youth. This is the general problem with youth, is that, yes, it is for most people, not everyone, but for most people, it is only when you reach a certain age, whatever that is, 50, 60, 70, that you then begin to seriously do things to maintain your health, that you seriously begin to do preventative actions. And at that point, they're not preventative anymore. Of course, that's the problem, is that at that point, whatever you do will be helpful. But, you know, really, we need to do preventative health measures when we're young. But unfortunately, this also corresponds with a time when, when you're 20, 25, 30, you feel great, your mind is sharp, and you're thinking, I'm on top of the world, I feel great, and I will feel great for the rest of my life. And most people, of course, when they're young, won't do what is necessary. What does that mean? Take care of themselves. It means, as I go on and on talking about, you rid yourself of addictions. You do not smoke. You do not drink alcohol. You do not do drugs of any sort, including ayahuasca, including marijuana, including any of these things that New Age folk thinks gives them enlightenment, but actually gives them stupidity and fantasy. You avoid all these things. You make sure that you're physically fit, because interestingly, when you're physically fit, this also helps the mind as well, because it helps blood circulation, it helps prana as well, it helps with breathing. So you make sure that you go to the gym, you make sure you lift weights, you also do yoga. At the very least, try to do Surya Namaskara, sun salutations. If you do a search on the Dharma Nation channel, you'll see that we have a video in which Surya Namaskara is explained in depth. Watch that video, start doing it. This means that you do meditation. When you do meditation, you go deeply within and you have a firm understanding and grasp of that inner realm of mind, of intelligence, of the psyche, etc., in such a way that being now in touch with this and understanding it and experiencing it from the inside out, not just theoretically, you have the ability to keep your mind sharp, even when you're older, etc., etc. Now, all this being said, as far as young people, indeed, what does one do when you're already 60, 65, 70, 80, anything like this? You can't really say that you're doing prevention, rather you're doing healing at this point. You still can improve your mind by doing all the above of what I just said. By doing all the above. I'm not going to repeat it all. But everything that I just said, start to do this at whatever age you are, and you'll see that little by little, the mind will come back, the memory will come back, etc. So again, not medical advice because I'm not an MD, but common sense advice and yogic advice. Very nice. Good. And now with that, I'm going to look at a few more questions that are here. Give me a moment, please. Very good. Good. Here's a nice question dealing with the book itself, and this is from Vedic Heartland. Namaste Sri Acharyaji, Dandavata Pranama, and likewise. Could you kindly speak a bit about the cover? I've never seen a tiger with a tilak before. It looks very majestic. Thank you. Well, maybe you came in a little bit late. I actually did talk about the cover, and I explained the meaning of the cover, but I'll explain again, and I'll maybe even go a little bit deeper. Again, it's a little difficult because I'm a little bit far away from the camera, but you can find close-ups of the cover, again, if you go to the Amazon page for the book, and you can see that it is essentially a tiger looking directly into your eyes, but the tiger is wearing tilak, and there is an om over the tiger. Well, let me explain what is meant by this. Several years ago, at this point about 3 years ago, I gave a talk that I believe was called Vanquishing the Tiger of the Kali Yuga. And indeed, this is one of the themes that I'm known for speaking about. And let me go a little bit in depth, actually, and a little bit more in depth than I did even a short time ago. So there's a very famous saying. It was created by Julius Evola, and the saying is, ride the tiger. The idea being that the tiger itself is the Kali Yuga. The tiger itself is any era in which things have gone to chaos, things have gone insane, an age of degeneracy. And yet, despite the fact that you find yourself in this age of degeneracy, you yourself are an aristocrat of the soul. That you yourself are an individual who, yes, you wish to live a life as if you are living in the golden age, and yet you find yourself surrounded by craziness, etc., where your choice of lifestyle is not supported by the culture. Well, Evola said something very interesting, and that is that you have to ride the tiger. In other words, that you need to just grab onto this tiger with all of your might, and wherever the tiger happens to go, you grab on with the hope that by grabbing on, the tiger won't consume you. And with the idea that, of course, if you let go of the tiger, well, then the tiger will turn around and eat you, will kill you. Well, that was his idea. And I have stated in recent years that it is no longer a time to be passive. It is no longer a time to think of ourselves as grabbing on to this tiger and hanging on for dear life, thus being a victim, being passive. But on the contrary, the time has now come to actually vanquish the tiger, to subdue the tiger for however long. See, the tiger ultimately cannot be vanquished forever. The tiger being the Kali Yuga itself. But we understand Vedically something that Evola, as brilliant as he was, he knew very little, sadly, actually about actual Vedic spirituality and the actual Vedas. He didn't know Sanskrit in any way, etc. The translations that were available in his time were not very good, etc. But one thing that we understand is that within the context of this Kali Yuga, there will be a time where there will be a mini golden age. The Vedic scriptures speak about this in several places, actually. Brahma Vaivarta Purana being only one. It's not the only place. But there will indeed be a mini golden age, and the idea is that for that span of time, that will be about 10,000 years, we will subdue the tiger. We will establish a golden age. So the reason why the cover looks like this is, if you look closely, that's the tiger. Except now he is wearing tilak. What does this mean? This means that for this period of the mini golden age that is about to come, the tiger has been subdued. We are now controlling the tiger. And more, the tiger has gone from being the spirit of this age of degeneracy to now, at least for a short time, a devotee wearing tilak. So this is what is meant by this cover. That we are going to vanquish the tiger. We are going to subdue the tiger. For however long. So I hope that answers the question as far as the cover. Again, it was Vishnu Patni, one of my students, who created this cover, the entire cover, back cover as well. And she did an absolutely beautiful, wonderful job with this. And I'm very grateful. She's also creating the cover for my Lord of the Rings book as well, which again will be out after a few more books come out. So with that, let's go on to a few more questions because we still have some nice time. Here's a comment from James Wallace. Namaste Acharyaji. Your clarity and fearlessness is an inspiration. Thank you for your dedication to your mission. Thank you for those very kind words, and let me tell you that we have a movement. And whatever I do, I could not do without the wonderful and amazing assistance of all of my students. So I thank them in turn. But thank you for your wonderful comment. And give me a moment. Very good. Here's a lot of comments, actually, more comments than questions. So I'll read another comment. And this is from Robin. Congratulations for the book release, Sri Acharyaji. Each word you utter brings light and hope in the hearts of good people. I offer you my humble obeisances. Thank you very much, Robin, for those wonderful words. And likewise, I offer my obeisances to you as well. And we will talk soon. I think I messaged you to arrange a Skype meeting, so please check your messages. I'll double check in case I'm mistaken. And if not, I will definitely make sure that I messaged you. Here's a question from M. Namaste Acharya, is there a way of contacting you? No, there is not, sadly. And I will go on. Here is a multi-part question from Berserker Hrafen, and I will read both parts. Namaste, Sri Acharyaji. I hope you've been doing very well in every way. In this transition phase, these coming years, where there's a lack of Kshatriyas and Brahmanas, and then part 2, where there's a lack of qualified spiritual Kshatriyas, will some qualified Brahmanas have to take up such roles in order to establish a standard for future Kshatriyas and also vice versa? Good question, actually. Very good question. This is a question that involves several things, including the nature of Varna, because what you're asking is a question that can be asked not just for this coming golden age, but generally speaking, whenever there is a crisis situation in society. And just to give a little bit of background for people who don't know what those terms mean. A Kshatriya is a ruler, is a warrior, is an administrator, is a person who's meant to lead martially. That's a Kshatriya. A Brahmana is a sage, a priest, someone who is a guardian of Vedic culture. So those are what these two terms mean. And let me say that throughout history, this is not the only time, throughout history there have been times in which there have been emergency situations and in which rulers are missing, and very specifically both the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. Sometimes you have an era in which it is difficult to find a legitimate Brahmana, or sometimes a legitimate Kshatriya, or both. And let me tell you that in situations like this, indeed it has been the case that, let's say that there is not a legitimate ruler of a nation, or there are not legitimate rulers, leaders, etc., that is the Kshatriya class. And Brahmanas will immediately step in and fill that role. And they have the ability to. Not every Brahmana has the ability to, but many Brahmanas do. And indeed, when a Brahmana steps into that role and fills those shoes, you have a perfect government. You have a government in which, indeed, now that individual, either he's doing this inherently because it's his inherent nature, or due to the circumstances that occur, he becomes akin to a Chakravartin. He becomes akin to a perfect ruler. That is, an individual who is a perfect coming together of Brahminical and Kshatriya qualities. So indeed, when there is not a legitimate Kshatriya ruler, a Brahmana can step into that situation. And that being the case, usually it is the case that you have perfect governance. Because now you have an individual who, they know policy, they understand how to implement policy perfectly such that it reflects Dharma and it benefits the people. But this individual also understands how to rule in accordance with spirituality, in accordance with Dharma perfectly, so thus making the governance of that nation perfect in every way. Sometimes the Brahmana will fill that role for a short time until legitimate Kshatriya, legitimate ruler appears, and then he'll relinquish the throne to that person. Sometimes he will just rule for the rest of his life. And it depends from situation to situation. But indeed, that can happen. A Kshatriya can sometimes step into the role of a Brahmana. That's more rare, actually, because it's always easier to go from up to down. It's always easier to go from something qualitatively higher to somewhat lower. But to go from being a Kshatriya to then seeing, oh, there are no legitimate Brahmanas around, oh, I should fulfill the role of a Brahmana, it's a little bit more rare, but again, it has been done in the past. And many times, actually. What is the prime example? The prime example that almost everyone on the planet would know. Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha himself was a Kshatriya, but he renounced his kingdom. He became a yogi. He became a Brahmana. Indeed, if you read the Dhammapada, which is a very famous short selection of aphorisms by Gautama Buddha himself, he has a slew of aphorisms in which he talks about what is the true Brahmana. A lot of people aren't aware of this. Again, people don't understand that the further back you went, the Buddha himself was a follower of Vedic culture. So thus, he has many verses in the Dhammapada where he talks about what is a true Brahmana. Well, he was a true Brahmana, and yet he was born a Kshatriya. So he's an example of, again, the opposite, of a Kshatriya who fulfills the role of a Brahmana and becomes a teacher of Dharma. So I hope that answers the question. Very nice. Sandra G says, Namaste, Sri Acharyaji. When is Be Strong coming out? I can hardly wait for it. Let me tell you, well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I am in the process of writing it right now. I just began, actually. This book has come out next in, again, approximately 4 to 6 weeks. Radical Universalism will come out. And that's an older book that actually initially came out in 2007. But now I've expanded it tremendously. It's about 60 pages longer, but it also has a somewhat different emphasis. It's practically a new book. That's going to come out in about 4 to 6 weeks. So let's say, roughly a month to 2 months after that, Be Strong will come out. So it will come out this year, maybe later this year. Then followed by Lord of the Rings, Dharma and Modernity, then followed by the Vedic Encyclopedia, then followed by many other books. Let me also say this, actually, that most, if not all, of the older books also are going to be revised by me. And in between new books coming out, old books will have new editions. So the Shakti Principle is going to come out as a new, much expanded edition. The Taking Refuge in Dharma, the ISDS Initiation Guide, is going to be much bigger. Indeed, in time, I also have the goal, and all of my top disciples know this, I've spoken about this, I have a goal of expanding upon even my magnum opus, Sanatana Dharma, the Eternal Natural Way. I would like to add, roughly another 50 to 100 pages to that book. And when that occurs, and that along with the study guide, I'm going to do both simultaneously, also expand that, because necessarily they go together, they have to be expanded at the same time. But when Sanatana Dharma, the Eternal Natural Way, is expanded, and there's a new edition. We will make it available in print, in Kindle, as well as a hardcover, beautifully created hardcover version of that book. So those are the books that will be coming out in the immediate future, but I have a list of approximately 60 titles that will come out systematically one after another for years to come. So thank you for asking that. Very good. Here is a question from Cassandra Siriganda, and it is, I would like to ask about Surya Narayana. Hence, is Surya identical with Narayana or a Deva? Yes, there is enormous unnecessary, as is true for everything in Sanatana Dharma, unnecessary confusion about this. The Vedic scriptures are not confused about this in any way whatsoever. I'm going to give you the definitive answer. You can accept it or not, that's up to you. But I'm giving you the definitive answer in accordance with the Vedic understanding, i.e. the Vedic scriptures, legitimate Vedic Acharyas, etc. There is a special relationship between Surya Deva, who is considered to be a celestial divinity. He's not just an ordinary god. There is a class of gods who are celestial divinities. Surya is one of them. And he does indeed have a connection with Narayana. He is not Narayana, let me make this clear. And it's unfortunate that people get all confused about this, as they do about almost every aspect of Sanatana Dharma. He is connected to Narayana in the following way. The sun, Surya, is a stand-in for Narayana's majestic aspect, his regality within the material world. This is why, for example, Narayana himself is the light of all lights. Within the material world, it is Surya, who is the sun, who is the light. We have the Gayatri mantra, the Brahma Gayatri mantra, in which, on the surface level, it looks like it is a mantra to Surya, and it seems like it is all revolving the material world, the various strata of different planes within the material world, etc. And yet it is understood by every single legitimate guru and acharya going back to the beginning of time that the underlayer is that in actuality it is a mantra in which you are addressing not just Surya, but God himself. Now, all that being said, let me explain what I mean in depth about how Surya represents the majestic or regality aspect of Narayana within the material world. And it goes back to this. No, not just the book. It goes back to the idea of proper, legitimate, authentic, authorized rulership within the world. Surya also represents regality, majesty, rulership within the material world. And more, he represents the authority of Narayana in regard to rulership. This is the reason why there is what is called Surya Vangsha. Surya Vangsha is the dynasty of the sun, the solar dynasty. This is quite literally what it means, the solar dynasty. It is understood that most, if not all, legitimate rulers. There's also lunar dynasty, but it's minuscule, it's so small it's not even worth talking about. And as far as the historicity of how the lunar dynasty came about, it's very interesting, but 98% of legitimate kings and queens throughout history were part of the solar dynasty, the Surya Vangsha. This being the case, you see this throughout the world, where legitimate rulers from, again, the beginning of time up until even today associate themselves with the sun. They associate themselves with the sun. This is true certainly as far as overtly Vedic kings. They will say, yes, I am a child of the solar dynasty. We are royalty because we are descendants of the sun, of the solar dynasty. You find this in Thailand. You find this throughout Asia. Interestingly, you even find this among much royalty in Europe as well. You find this from the very beginning, let's say roughly 2,000 years ago, really stretching back before then. But we're talking about, let's say, more modern times, meaning the last 2,000 years, Europe as we have known it and as it has influenced modernity. You see that many of the emperors, many of the kings associate their rulership with the sun, to the point where some are very overt about it. King Louis XIV of France, for example, called himself and was known as the Sun King. His symbol, his logo, you could say, was the face of the sun. So thus, a true ruler, a true king, is someone who is in the Surya Vansha, someone who is in the solar dynasty. So why is all this the case? Because again, the sun represents the regality of Narayana. So all this being the case, we can understand that there is indeed a very close connection between Surya and Narayana. However, they are not the same. They are indeed considered to be distinct beings. Those individuals who, really know very little, they started reading Vedic scriptures in English translation a few years ago, and they think that they stumbled on something. Now they can run with it frantically because they think they had some revelation, and they think that Surya is literally Narayana. He's an incarnation of Narayana, etc. No, those are individuals who you have to kind of feel sorry for them. They don't really, again, it's one of those instances of a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. You want to really make right decisions in your life, gain a lot of knowledge. A lot of knowledge, and then you'll understand. So I hope that answers the question. That no, Surya is considered to be a deva, but he is also within the material realm a stand-in in several senses for Narayana. But he is not literally Narayana. So I hope that answers the question. Renato M. Good question. You're asking, Namaste Sri Acharyaji, is the Republic a good model for dharmic rulership despite its socialistic tendencies? Constitutional monarchy. What we're going to have in the future is going to be a constitutional monarchy, and that will represent Dharma perfectly. Constitutional monarchy. Constitutional monarchy will be the future of governance. And indeed, Sanatana Dharma rejects socialism in every way, shape, and form. Whether politically, economically, socially, etc. We reject socialism. We reject communism. We reject collectivism in every way. Very good. Let me check the time. Oh, we're a little bit over time. I should stop very soon, but maybe let me just see if there's one, as always, quick question that I can just answer very quickly. Very good. I'll answer this very quickly, but so quickly that maybe I'll take another question afterwards. It's a nice question from Michael Choi. Namaste Acharyaji. I wanted to ask, as a general outline, how do you see the world changing as we transition toward a dharmic world? What is the game plan, so to say? Let me tell you, first of all, the International Sanatana Dharma Society has the game plan, down to the minutest detail. And those who know me know that that is not a joke or hyperbole. We have it down to the minutest detail, how we're going to bring about a dharmic world. For the public, this is what I would recommend to you. Read a book that I wrote called the Dharma Manifesto, and it gives a little bit of a hint. The full plan is not there. The full plan is here, and what I share with my top students. But read the Dharma Manifesto, and you'll have a good hint of the plan. But trust me, we have a plan. And trust the plan. Very good. Berserker says, One moment, I just lost it. Very good. Berserker says, thank you for your wonderful introduction to this great and necessary book. I'm looking forward to reading it soon. Yes, Berserker, you need to read this book especially. Get this book. Read this book, Principles of Perfect Leadership and the Dharma Manifesto. Have those be your, I'm tempted to say Bible, but I'm tired of that term. Have these books be your Veda. You specifically. Very good. And let me see if maybe there is one more question that I can answer quickly, because I don't want to keep people too long. Just give me a moment. Again, give me a moment. I'm trying to find a question that I can answer in a minute or less. And it's taking me more time than a minute to even find the question. Here, I'll answer this question, actually. Eddie Rosario asks, when is that golden age going to begin? I don't know your age, Eddie. I don't know your age, but assuming that you're, let's say under 50, under 60, something like that, it's going to begin within your lifetime. I know it's going to begin within my lifetime. So those of you who are younger than me, rest assured, it will begin in your lifetime. This coming golden age is going to happen very, very, very soon. Indeed, look around you. Do you see what's happening? Look around you. Do you see what's happening? Do you understand what's happening? I can guarantee, even those of you who think you have a good grasp, you're seeing 15% of what's happening. It's happening. It's happening now. We're going to see a golden age in our lifetime. So with that, I thank you all very much for being here with me again. Run, don't walk to Amazon and get this book today, Interregnum. This is a book that will reveal to you what is happening in our world today in accordance with the Srimad Bhagavatam, what was written 5,000 years ago. And indeed, future proves past. You will understand where we are, why we are, where we are, and how we will get to where we wish to truly be. So with that, I thank you all very much for attending this book release celebration with me. We will get together again next Sunday at the same time, 2 p.m. And in the meantime, namaste to all of you. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. Suravangsha Jayate. Victory to Sanatana Dharma, the eternal natural way. Victory to the Dharma nation and the many Dharma nations that are about to appear on the planet. Victory to the solar dynasty, the source of all true rulers, representatives of whom are taking birth upon the planet at this very moment. Evam bhavatu. May such victory be so. and I guarantee you such victory will be so. Everyone, between now and the next time that we get together, I ask you all in every way that you please take very good care of yourselves.